I am Galina Stele from the Office of Archive Statistics and Research. I am Research and Evaluation Manager, and this presentation will be about surveys conducted by the Adventist Church and supervised by our office. We will also share some interesting findings from some surveys. On this slide, you can see how many research projects were done in the last decade by our office. You can see the Adventist Pastor Survey. You can also see 2 global church member surveys. You can see Church Leadership Administrator Survey, a research on motives for tithing, also the 21st Century Seventh-day Adventist Connection Study, and also 2 surveys on retention, leaving the church, and also a survey of former members. Leaving the church was an interesting project because 2 groups of people were surveyed. One group that had left the church and another group that had left the church at some point but then had returned. Also, we had institutional worker surveys that it is in progress right now, and return missionary surveys. We also had some evaluation projects. We surveyed for evaluation Adventist Review and Adventist World magazines, also Hope Channel, Adventist World Radio, Sun Plus program, and Global Mission Centers. So you can know right now and look at these surveys and understand that many of them, or most of them, we did for strategic planning purpose and also for decision making. So that strategic plans, both of them, they reach the world, and also I Will Go strategic focus, they are based on the research findings of the project that were commissioned by the General Conference. In this quinquennium, our office will measure 26 out of 59 key performance indicators in the I Will Go strategic focus. And we will do it by the church member survey, by pastors, church leaders, and institutional workers surveys. So maybe you have a question, where to find all this information about these research projects and these research reports? So I have good news for you. You can go to our Adventist Research website, www.adventistresearch as one word.info. What can you find there? You can find research reports. You can also find blogs on research findings, and we post these blogs every 2 weeks. We also send out our research newsletter, and if you would like to subscribe, just let us know. You will also find the information about the Adventist Researchers Conferences, and also about 2 General Conference Nurture and Retention Summits. Also, you will read there about GC research priorities, about evaluation handbook and manuals that we developed, and you can use it. It's on our website. And also about GC strategic plans. So if you're interested in this information, go to our website. And now let's look at some interesting findings from the last Global Church Member Survey. It was conducted in 2017-2018 in all 13 divisions. The first church member survey that was conducted in 2013 was conducted just in 9 divisions, but this one was conducted in all world divisions of the Adventist Church. You can see that the total sample was really huge. It composed 63,756 people responded to the survey questions. You can also see that 40% of the total sample were young people. 12%, this is the subsample of the Adventist adolescents. And 28%, this is a subgroup of young adults. So we will share some results from all these sample and subsamples. And you can see on this slide the group of Adventist researchers that conducted 2017-2018 Global Church Member Survey. They came to the research conference that was held at Loma Linda, and so we had a meeting there, and you can see researchers from division research teams and meta-analysis research team. So let's look at some findings. Very interesting Adventists are happy people, the research findings say. 89% of them said that they are happy or rather happy people. We also had a statement there, I feel my life is filled with meaning and purpose. And guess what? 83% from the total sample said that often or sometimes often they feel this way. We also had a question about their satisfaction with their local church. And how satisfied are you with your local church, we asked. And you can see that responses were very similar from the total sample and these subsamples of young people. 74% from the total sample, 72% from the young adult subsample, and 73% from the Adventist adolescents said that they are very satisfied or somewhat satisfied. Of course, the researchers look carefully at the very satisfied responses. And you can see that the responses are lower than if we compare them with the total satisfaction. So this is the area that we can pay attention and maybe work forward to increase it. We had also a question, how likely is that you will be attending a Seventh-day Adventist church for the rest of your life? The results were very encouraging. From the total sample, 93% said that they very likely or somewhat likely they will attend the church for the rest of their life. And also young people, we can see 92% from the young adults group and 87% that say very likely or somewhat likely. And this is very encouraging. And now let's see at some doctrines. So we can say that overall response is very positive. The participants of the Global Church Member Survey showed great support for Adventist doctrines. Let's see at some distinctive doctrines of the Adventist Church. If we look at this, that it's just several examples that I put on the screen, we can see that the total agreement combined strongly agree and agree responses on these statements. For Sabbath doctrine, 97%, this is total agreement. God created the universe, 95%. God wants us to take care of my body by avoiding alcohol, drugs, and tobacco, 95%. And then Ellen G. White's writings are the results of the spirit of prophecy, and we again see a great support, 92%. Sanctuary doctrine is vital to Adventist theology, 87%. Six-day creation, again, 87%. These are great results. However, researchers also look at the differences between strongly agree and agree responses. And we look here, we can see that the doctrine on Sabbath receives the highest strongly agree responses, 83%. But then we look and we see that 3 of those doctrines receive less than 83%. So we see that Ellen G. White writings are the results of the spirit of prophecy, gift of the spirit of prophecy, 69. Then we see the sanctuary doctrine received 56% of strongly agree responses. And we also see the creation in 6 days received 65 strongly agree responses. So we need to look at this from the point how we can improve and increase strongly agree responses in our next survey that is coming this or next year. When we look at the subsamples of young people on the same doctrines, let's look just at 4 of them. And we can look and see that the blue column represents the responses from the young adolescents, and the orange column represents the responses from people from 21 till 35 years old. And we can see that it's also great support for these doctrines on Sabbath, on creation, on my body, the temple of the Holy Spirit, on Ellen G. White writings. But at the same time, we see that Adventist adolescents, they gave like a low rate them compared to the young adults. So we can also note that although also overwhelming majority supported these doctrines. So on this slide you can see statements on pre-Advent judgment and sanctuary. And these results are from the total sample. We can see also overwhelming response and also support for these doctrines. But you can also note that these bars, they have blue and orange color. And blue color represent responses, I embrace this statement, this doctrine wholeheartedly. And orange part represent percentage of people who responded, I accept this because our church teaches that. Of course, we all want so that this blue bar or part of the bar would increase. So let's see the church interpretation of end-time prophecies. We have 66% of I embrace it wholeheartedly. Before Christ returns, God will decide who is to be saved and who will be eternally lost, 61%. Then we have Christ is acting as our advocate before God in the heavenly sanctuary right now. And we have here also 81%. The investigative pre-Advent judgment began in 1844, and we have 64%. I embrace it wholeheartedly. Of course, we can add this orange part, and then we have like total agreement. But we can also ask ourselves this question, how we can increase this percentage of I embrace it wholeheartedly. Why just 60+% on several points, not 80, not 90%? So these areas are for educators, teachers, pastors, church leaders to think through how we can explain more and teach our people more so that they can more clearly understand and also embrace these doctrines. Now let's look at some responses from young people subsamples. And you can see also the bars on my right corner. You can see also responses on these doctrines of pre-Advent judgment. Church interpretation of end-time prophecies represented by the great bar. Then before Christ returns, God will decide who is saved and who is lost. This is orange bar. And then pre-Advent judgment began in 1844. This is blue bar. And we can see the subsamples of from 21 through 35 years old people, and then young adolescents up to 20 years old. And you can see that the lower response rate is from these young adolescents or Adventist adolescent subsample on the questions pre-Advent judgment began in 1844. Just 45% embrace this wholeheartedly. So this is area for us to ask why our adolescents don't understand or don't embrace or don't know this point, this area of our teachings. Now let's look at our blue columns. And these are responses to the questions or to the statements that Jesus will return in my lifetime. We had this statement. And you can see that responses, you can imagine, were various. But you can be maybe surprised that young people up to 20 years old, 62% of them said they believe that Jesus will return in their lifetime. And when we compare with the total sample, just 56% said so. So looking at all responses, we can conclude that a majority of Adventists around the world support Adventist doctrines, although there are some areas where we can expect or maybe walk forward the improvement. At the same time, we can also see that Adventists around the world, they are waiting for the second coming of Jesus. We had also interesting study in the territory of the North American division. It was on mission offering study, and this is a part from the part 2. It was qualitative study with focus groups. And one of the research questions was, what motivates Adventist members in the North American division to give mission offerings to the Seventh-day Adventist Church? Interestingly enough, motivating factor number 1 from this study was to hastening the second coming of Jesus and winning souls for heaven. Isn't that wonderful? We also need to say that we also noted from the research projects, and especially from the church member survey, that there is some confusion, especially regarding the state of the dead. On this slide, you can see 3 different groups, total sample presented in gray columns, blue sample, a blue column presented by sample up to 20 years old, and orange column presents responses from some sample from 21 through 35 years old. So the highest rate was received on the statement that after death there is no consciousness or activity. You can see that all three groups, they kind of support that. But what was confusing, that we had 4 other questions on the state of the dead, and responses just were contradicting. Let's look at the first cluster of columns from my left. Righteous dead are in heaven right now. And you can see that from 20% till through 28, people supported that. And the highest response rate was from the some sample of young adolescents. Then let's look at the third cluster, soul lives after death. And again, we can see that from 35% till 39% of the respondents, they supported the statement, and 39% were people from the youngest subsample. Then Christians may go to witch doctors. We can see responses, agreement from 13 till 21%. Again, the highest response from the group of young adolescents. Dead can communicate with living. We have smaller numbers, but still from 13 till 16% people agreed, and 16% was from people of the youngest sample. So we can see that we need some areas to improve, to explain more, especially this important doctrine. When we look at the sample and also at the Adventist education, how many people from this more than 63,000 received Adventist education, we noted that 65% didn't have any Adventist education. And from the subsample of young adults, 45% did not have any Adventist education. So this tells us that we need to pay attention more to people and to students that are studying in public universities and public schools. And we need to explain and study more with them and present more maybe those things that are important for our church. We also noted that first generation Adventists were very well represented. 41% of the total sample, they were the first generation Adventists. It's not that great, but at the same time, this is a great challenge, how we can retain these people and help them to be rooted in our Adventist church. 33% were the first generation Adventists from the young adults, and 26%, a little bit more than a quarter, from the young adolescents. We also know that 5th and 4th generations, they have Adventists, they have tendency to be nominal Christians. And we have also from 18 till 26% in these different groups, people that are in this 4th or 5th generation Adventist group. So this is also a challenge for our church, and we need to think how to respond to that. Interestingly, we in the study, the 21st Century Seventh-day Adventist Connection study that was done by a research group from Southern Adventist University, these results came from them. They saw the correlation, a significant correlation between a strong devotional life and acceptance of Adventist doctrines and Adventist lifestyle. So a legitimate question is, what about church members' devotional life? What did we see from the church member survey? And on this slide, you can see different devotional practices. And the cluster of columns, the gray color represents total sample, orange color represents the young adults, and blue sample, blue column or color represents responses from young adolescents. So the first cluster of column from my left, this is about prayer, personal prayer, daily prayer. So responses here are for daily or more often than once a day. So this was actually discouraging because we saw that only 65% from the total sample said that they had daily personal prayer other than for the meals. And if we look at the young adults, 59%. And even more discouraging, almost a half, 52% said they have it. It means that almost the other half, almost half, 48%, they don't have daily personal prayer as a regular practice. Personal devotions, we have lower figures, and them reading the Bible daily or more often than once a day. We have also low figures, and you can see that the lowest figures are again for young people, young Adventist adolescents, 31%, 33% for reading the Bible daily, and orange column for the young adults, 43% for devotions, 41% for reading the Bible, and just 52% for the total sample of church members around the world for daily regular devotions, and 48% for reading the Bible daily. Should we increase these numbers? Do we want to increase these numbers? How should we do, and what should we do to encourage these devotional practices? Of course, the other study the Sabbath school lesson and reading Ellen G. White daily we see even lower, but encouraging is that when we combine these responses for more than once a week, including daily, then we have bigger figures for young adults. We have 57% that they study Sabbath school lesson at least once a week. And then we have also reading Ellen White, so that they also, 32% they read something from Ellen White weekly. And we have lower numbers, but still we have about a quarter for those young adolescents who read Ellen White during the week, and also we have 46% for them who study the Sabbath school lessons. When we compared results from different surveys, just with the question, how often do you read the Bible, what is the group is reading the Bible more often? Very encouraging and interesting. You see the high blue column on your right, 80% of church leaders said that they did it daily. This is the highest response compared to church members and also young adults and also Adventist adolescents. Let's look at the involvement of young people. Interestingly enough, you know probably that involvement is a key in church retention, church member retention, and especially retention of young people. They need to be involved to feel that this is their church. So if we look on my left part of the slide, if you look at the columns blue and orange, and blue is young people, Adventist adolescents, and orange are people from 21 to 35 years old, you can see that involvement. So the first column is involved in the church ministry on Sabbath, and the second is during the week. You can see and visually just recognize they do more on Sabbath than during the week. They involved more on Sabbath. But even then, only a little bit more than 1/3 of young adults involved regularly in church ministry on Sabbath. What about 2 other thirds? And even less, 28% of Adventist adolescents involved on Sabbath, and less, of course, during the week. Researchers also decided to look from the geographical locations perspective, and they took all the responses and divided according to geographical areas. So they divided between Asia, Inter and Latin America, and also Africa and secular context, North America, Australia, and Europe. And you can see this number of green columns. So the first is Asia, and then is Inter and Latin America, and then you can see Africa and North America, Europe, and Australia, like secular context. So the question is about involvement. The columns are involvement during the Sabbath day, and then the red line is about involvement during the week. So we can conclude that young people in Asia, they involved more than in any other geographical area on Sabbath. And also during the week, 39% of them said so about the Sabbath, 33% about during the week. And the lowest during the week is in secular context. So we need to think about that and see how we can improve these findings. So on my left, you can see bars, and these bars represent also 2 subsamples, 21 to 35 years old and up to 20 years old. And you can see the gray one, this met needs of non-Adventists during the week. Not very big response from either group, 19-18% only said so. orange bar, formed new friendship with non-Adventists. This is a bigger bar because the young people, they communicate, and this is good, but also 27% of young adults and only 32% from Adventist adolescents. Witness to non-Adventists, this is blue bar, and only 24 from the young adults and 20 from Adventist adolescents. So we can see that we need to work a lot so that our young people could be involved more, see more opportunities, and were welcomed in this involvement in their church ministry. And now again, you can see according to the geographical location in different parts of the world, the question witness to non-Adventists, and this group is from 15 to 35 years old. You can see that again in Asia, the church is more vibrant and more involving young people in these activities. 28% said that yes, they witness to non-Adventists during the week. And the lowest response we can see in secular context, North America, Europe, and Australia. Just 11% agreed with that. Of course, we cannot present all the research findings in this presentation, but I would like to tell you that we developed and we produced 2 books on young people with research data from the latest church member survey. So this is the Beliefs and Practices of Adventist Adolescents. This is volume 1, and this is Beliefs and Practices of Adventist Young Adults. If you are interested in these books, to receive them in hard copies, please contact us, and you will receive graphs and some explanations on these subsamples, and you will know more. I also would like to touch another area. Young people want to be involved more. I would like to say that and to underline that although the results show that they are not so much involved, but the results also show they would like to be involved more. And this graph is from one of our blogs, research blogs that we posted on our website. And it is about several questions that we had in this church member survey. And questions were, what do you think? Should some activities of your church increase greatly or somewhat? Or should your involvement also in some church activities increase greatly or somewhat? And we can see that these columns, green is greatly and blue color represents somewhat. And this is a subsample 21 through 35 years old people. And they actually answered positively about their own involvement. They agreed, they said that yes, we recognize that evangelistic outreach to community my involvement in that should increase. Efforts to meet needs of community, my involvement should increase. And you can see that from 34 to 41% they increase greatly, and then the other part 39, 41% somewhat. Also caring and nurturing church members, reclaiming of former church members, they said it should increase greatly, and the greatest rate was from the last, reclaiming former church members. So my involvement should increase greatly, and this is very great. We also looked at some points in church member survey about church member retention. So we noted that it was very discouraging that many people say they never were visited by their pastors, elders. You can see in the yellow color rectangle that never visited by a pastor, 38% said during the year, last year. 41% said never visited by a church elder, and 21% were also not visited by a church member. Although church members are the major force in church visitations. And then researchers also looked at correlations, and they decided to see if there is a correlation between frequency of visitations of members who did not attend the church in the last year. And so you see the graph, the results on these correlations. And sadly enough, those people who did not attend the church during the last year, 61% of them said they were never visited during this year, either by church member, a church elder, or pastor. So the conclusion is that even if we visit church members, most likely we visit those who still continue or they are part of the church, they attend the church. But those who stop attending, they very often find themselves in a vacuum. But of course, the research finding should not be just about theory, just about the doctrines, just about some percentage and numbers. The research finding should open our eyes how we can increase and develop a better relationship with the personal God, because we believe in personal God. And we actually had this statement that I believe in a personal God who seeks a personal relationship with a human being, with human beings. And encouraging enough that 94% agreed with that. So our church members believe that we believe in God who actually seeks personal relationship. And now we need to think how teachers in our educational institutions, pastors in our churches, youth leaders, family members, friends can help each other to increase and develop a better personal relationship, a devotional practices with this great God who came to save us. So what surveys will our office conduct in the near future? You can see a list here. Adventist Pastor Survey will be conducted during maybe next 2-3 years. Third wave, we say, of Global Church Member Survey, number 3. Actually, the translation of the instrument has started this year, and it will be 2021-2023 Global Church Member Survey, and we're eager to compare results. If anything has changed in attitudes to the doctrine, in church members' practices, behaviors, in their involvement in the church, devotional practices. And also we will have church leadership administrator survey and institutional workers survey that is in progress right now, and it surveys teachers in educational institutions, also workers in healthcare institutions, also workers in media centers and other organizations. So I already mentioned where you can find all this information, and much more than we can mention today, but you can find it there. Just go to www.adventistresearch.info and you can find information there. And you can find also, I would like to stress even more, if you're interested in church retention, the General Conference 2013 and 2019 Summit on Nurture and Retention, 2 summits, material is there, presentations, pictures, and even videotaped presentations you can find there. You can see also a book that came as a result of the last 2019 Summit on Nurture and Retention. Most of the articles that are published there are also there as presentations. And also would like to mention at the end about Adventist human subject researchers. So we have this association for Adventist human subject researchers. This is association that unites the Adventist researchers, social science researchers from around the world. We had already conducted conferences at Andrews University, Loma Linda University, Oakwood University, General Conference headquarters. And this year, actually in May, from 17 till 21, we also have this conference in conjunction with another conference at Andrews, Adventist Research Conference of Early Career Researchers. So if you are interested, you can also find more information on our website or on the website of this association, ASHRA Association. You can also go through our website there and find more information or be part of these conferences. Of course, I also would like to mention that what we would like to see in our church, why we do this research, why to compare these percentages and numbers, why to have this headache to conduct these surveys and also go from church to church and ask people to fill out the surveys. Maybe because we would like to reflect what God wants us to do. And I like this quotation that I would like to read at the end from Ellen White, God's Amazing Grace, page 56. The people of God are His representatives upon the earth. And he intends that they shall be lights in the moral darkness of this world, scattered all over the country, in the towns, cities, and villages. They are God's witnesses, the channels through which he will communicate to an unbelieving world the knowledge of his will and the wonders of his grace. And I think all of us would like to be such people. That's why we do research. That's why we do strategic planning. That's why we would like to see areas we would like to improve. And we hope that with God's help, our church will reflect this bright light of Jesus' life and be representative on his church in this world. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, now you have time for them.